All right, welcome back to Waxing On. It's Friday, and I promised you a little bit of classic rock, but it's kind of like that folk rock, and we're revisiting an album by the Byrds. We talked about the Byrds quite a while ago, and that was the greatest hits album. Again, captured the real essence of what they were doing at that time. Mr. Tambourine Man, All I Really Want to Do, a lot of Bob Dylan tunes. It had that certain jangly Rickenbacker guitar sound. Roger McGuinn really carrying a lot of the band. This album's quite a few years later. We're into the 70s now. I believe it was their 8th album. You can see from my bullet hole here, or what I'm calling the bullet hole, if you've been watching the show, you recognize that discount bin find. They've marked it down to get rid of it. And Ballad of Easy Rider, kind of capitalizing a little bit on the popularity of the movie. Ballad of Easy Rider. On the back, and I can't show you this whole thing, but you can see in there now, we got a little note from Peter Fonda. And, you know, it kind of basically is the album notes for the record. So, yeah, so we're really tying into the movie Easy Rider with Fonda and Dennis Hopper. Now, this one, the band at this point is John York on bass, Gene Parsons on drums, guitars, and vocals, Clarence White on lead guitar, and Roger McGuinn on guitar and vocal synthesizer. So we still have that Roger McGuinn voice of the Byrds. And to me, that's who I hear every time I think of this band. Ballad of Easy Rider was the one Roger McGuinn song on the album. Now, keeping true to form, they do include some Bob Dylan, and we'll get to that in just a second. Let's take a look at the songs that were on here. We've got Ballad of Easy Rider by Roger McGuinn, and it was from the motion picture Easy Rider. Now, there was some variations on how they used that song. You have to check out the movie or check out the movie soundtrack to kind of get that. We got Fido, we got Oil in My Lamp, and Jack Tar the Sailor, two traditional songs that were arranged by the Byrds. Now, very Celtic feel on some of this stuff, so it's a little different from what we'd expect from the Byrds. Again, when I'm talking about that jangly sound that they used to get. Tulsa Country Blue. Side 2 of the album includes Jesus Is Just All Right, and this was one of the other big singles from the album. It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. There's the Bob Dylan tune showing back up, and they really had a close association with Bob Dylan and his music as it translated into what the Byrds were doing. There Must Be Someone, Vern Gosdin. Gunga Din by band member here, Gene Parsons. Deportia, Plane Wreck at Los Gatos, and that's a tune by Woody Guthrie. So they're covering some traditional old folk music as well. And Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins. Now, those names probably sound familiar, right? First Moonwalk. So, again, this is about the 8th album. I'm going to say we're well into the 70s. Well, not too far in, I guess. This was what they considered kind of like the second half of their career. And when I read the reviews of it, they thought this was one of the best albums of that second part of the Byrds' career. Not the same as what we were used to with the greatest hits and those original tunes, but kind of an evolution for them. It was fun to explore it. I really didn't even know about this album. I've listened to it a couple of times just to kind of get a feel for it. The Celtic things kind of surprised me a bit, but hey, it still works. And you still got Roger McGuinn in there anchoring everything that gives it that real Byrds feeling. Great album to check out. If you haven't seen it, check out the movie. Easy Rider, just an excellent film. Jack Nicholson's big breakout role. Dennis Hopper. Peter Fonda, directed by Hopper. There was talk the majority of the film was just improvised, although I do have a screenplay for it. That's a whole other story, right? And just some great tunes. And again, we're talking some music to kind of take you back to a whole different time. That early 70s, late 60s, for me, it was kind of a magical time. So much was going on. So much was going on in movies, so much in music. It was a lot of experimentation, a lot of new ideas. Things were really breaking out. And the album just helps bring those memories back. Certainly, if you go on the streaming networks now, I was on one of them, and while they have the album available, here I've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 10 tunes. It had an extended version, extra songs, different variations. And that's one of the great things about some of these re-releases or what's happening on the streaming networks is we are getting a lot of extra music than what we had on the original album. Now, granted, they're limited by space. You can only put so much on these discs unless you move to a 2-album set, and those became more expensive. So a lot of times that didn't happen. But with the streaming networks, we're often getting a lot of nice bonus material that wasn't available here. So even if you have the album and heard the album numerous times, check out the streaming networks. There's some other bonus material in there that might be of interest. So that's it for today. The Byrds revisited with Ballad of Easy Rider. Everybody have a great weekend. We're into the first full weekend of November, if you can imagine. Boy, the time is just flying by. Everybody, take care. Stay safe. We'll see you on Monday.